Talk Radio. You're in to all things music.
Welcome to Making It with Terry Wollman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Wollman.
Hi, this is Melissa Manchester taking over for Terry Wollman, who is over there, because this is the first anniversary of his show, Making It, and I was his very first guest. So we have decided to turn the tables on the boy, and I will be interviewing Terry Wollman today. Hello, sir.
Hello, Melissa. It's great to be on your show. Or on my show.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your first anniversary. This is so great.
It really is. It's been a year of shows.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I have questions. We have questions.
Yeah.
So tell me, first of all, how did you come up with the idea of the show?
Well, I had been thinking about doing some kind of a radio show for the last few years. I thought it might be interesting as an opportunity to share the stories of not just what I was doing, but of the really amazing many people that I know in all aspects of the creative world, you know, business and certainly artists and everything. So, and I hadn't really known how to make that happen. I was saying, oh, I want to be on NPR. I want to, you know, figure it out. And I would just, it was an idea, like a song, the beginning of a song that was just sort of cooking in my oven. And I was invited to be a guest on Enter Talk Radio on another one of their shows, Jackie's Groove, where they interviewed me and talked about my career as an artist. And I got contacted by the producer of the network after I was a guest on the show, asking me if I would like to have my own show.
Wow.
And I thought, how interesting.
That's so great.
It is great. And I'm a big believer that when things present themselves like that, that it makes sense to pay attention.
And say yes.
And say yes. So I said yes. And then to answer your question, then I needed to think, what was I actually going to do with the opportunity? And I thought, well, I don't want to just talk about how did you get your big break, you know, because everybody asked that. And so I didn't need to do what everybody else was doing. And I gave it a lot of thought to what can I do that's different? And what am I interested in? What am I curious about? And what I'm curious about is the creative process. But I'm also curious about what the experience is like. How did that feel when that happened? How did it surprise you? Was it everything that you thought it would be? Was it less? Was it more? I'm curious to go deeper into each person's story because everybody has a story.
Well, that leads me to my next question. What does making it mean to you?
Making it means to me having a good life. That's what it means. It means having a healthy, creative, full, joyful life. And doing it in a way that's physically and emotionally and spiritually healthy, doing it in a way that's not in a vacuum. As musicians, we spend a lot of time alone and isolated in the creative process, in the practicing, the learning our craft, in the hours of writing or arranging songs. And so that. It's having more than just music. Like I've always wanted to be healthy. I grew up, my dad was a phys ed teacher when I first grew up and became a school principal later, but we grew up around not necessarily eating healthy because it was the 60s and the 50s, but you know, we'd had sliced cheese that was in a piece of plastic, so it wasn't even cheese. But we still had our one piece of cheese a day for protein. Yeah, so the idea was there. But I've always exercised. I like doing other things. I study martial arts. And so to me, making it is having a broader outlook and a broader experience of life, not just, I didn't want to be one of those people that like just plays the guitar so great, but if you want to have a conversation with me, I freeze up. I don't know how to communicate, and being also that I produce records and arrange and music direct and as well as being a band member, it's about communication.
So has your perception of that phrase making it changed from when you were just starting out, and the concept of what it will take to make it? Has it changed now that you've been living the life for all these decades?
We're talking about life, not the show right now, right? Absolutely. Oh, yes. Because to me, making it before, my goal was I wanted to tour and make records, and somehow I ended up on TV for years music directing, and that was so off my path. I wanted to be one of the guys that when you would flip the album over and you would see my name and know that name. Guitar, Terry Wollman, arranged and conducted by Terry Wollman, produced by. I didn't really feel a desire to be recognized and known except by name and by reputation.
Right.
But so I came out here, drove across country in my Honda, with my juicer and my guitar and some clothes, and had this idea that of these things that I wanted to do, and they many and probably most did not happen the way that I thought that they would.
Right.
More often they happened from me being open to a possibility that was presented that wasn't exactly what I was looking to do, but somehow I thought it might lead me to where I wanted to be,
Right.
which was making music
Right.
with the best people in the world. And for me, that was New York or LA,
Right.
being an American and living in this continent.
So now that you've done this for a year,
Yes.
do you find that there is a connective tissue through all of your interviews, through all of the artists that you have interviewed? Is there something that unites us all on any level?
Yeah. There are a few things, and then there's some things that are completely different with everybody, and that's part of what I love. I'm more surprised by the differences than the cohesive thread that ties us all together. But yes, we all have all of the guests that I've interviewed share the same passion and the burning in the belly of just having to do this, having to create whatever it takes and whatever that means, and also this sort of willingness to for most people, because mostly I interview people that I respect. So I haven't had a lot of experience talking to people who have stepped on other people to get to where they are.
Okay.
I'm not really interested
Wow.
in that conversation.
Okay.
So I suppose at some point those conversations will happen, but I'm not as curious about that kind of living. Although I'm open to it, I'm open to hear everybody's story. And I'm a very curious person, which is part of the reason I like hosting a radio show. But no, it's really this drive and this very high level of integrity that I find very common with all of us, and sort of this sort of unbelievable sense of belief in ourselves that we are deserving in some way because we did the work and we do the work. So there's just this idea that we have to have that sense of confidence that I'm intrigued by in everybody. It doesn't extend into everybody's world in every area of everybody's world. So there are some very confident songwriters and engineers and business managers and recording artists that are incredibly confident in some areas and still lacking confidence in their personal relationships or things like that. For me, anything that works in the creative process, the creative part of my life, I try to extend into the personal part of my life. And we're a complicated bunch, I think, the tribe of us. So I guess I'm always surprised in conversations as to what people have to say, but I'm very conscious of not coming in with any agenda or preconceived ideas. I thought for me, the best way for me to approach the show to make it uniquely mine and also hopefully more interesting to everybody that listens and watches is to really find out how people think and how they feel and why they make their decisions, and I learn from that. But I also sometimes I ask questions that I already know the answers to, just like any good attorney, because there might be something about you, like, for example, like I knew that you did a TED Talk, and I was intrigued by that, and I didn't know if everybody that needed to know about that did, and I thought, I'm going to ask you about your TED Talk. But also, it's a really beautiful opportunity for me to interview people to see how they got so successful, because I'm so curious about that. And there's a fluke factor involved with a lot of us.
Yes, that is true.
And I've even talked to some people. I've talked to some people that have had a plan, and they've been disciplined and they followed it. And I've talked to other people who have had no plan at all, just a desire,
Wow.
and they stumble from one success to the other with bumps and falls and get up again. But it's really so fascinating to me too, that the no plan works as well, if not better, than the plan.
That's funny. Wow.
I've learned that.
That's really interesting. And in the many artists that you've now interviewed, do you get any sense that their artistry has healed them? Was that part of their journey?
Always.
Always.
Always. There's some sense of that. Perhaps maybe that's my bias that I bring in that I'm not even aware of and hadn't really thought about, but because I know music has healed me in some of the most difficult periods of my life, and lifted me out of depression, and and I know that our music that we create when we're doing that creates a healing for other people. So I think probably everybody that I have spoken to has expressed in some way, whether it's extremely clear and profoundly important part of their life, or whether it's just a subtle underlying of the conversation, that it's very clear that their creativity creates a daily healing for them, or a lifetime of healing.
Wow.
So I believe
Very
so.
powerful.
I believe so.
All right. Now, let's discuss Dick Van Dyke, shall we?
Yes.
Okay, did he just walk in the room?
He did. He walked into my life. We just heard.
Tell me about this.
Well, I had the supreme honor of producing Dick Van Dyke, also Tony Bennett, and also Alan Bergman with Dave Grusin.
Wow.
And Alan and Marilyn are friends of ours as well. So I worked on a movie directed by Danny Gold, produced by George Shapiro and Amy Hyatt, called
Young at Heart.
Well, the song is Young at Heart.
Yes.
The movie is If You're Not in the Obit, Eat
Right.
Breakfast, which
Sorry.
is an HBO movie.
Right.
Beautiful movie.
Based on Carl Reiner's.
Yeah, experience of getting older and really being curious about people in their 90s and 100s who are living joyful, active lives. So I got brought in to produce music, and it started with Dick Van Dyke, and it was posed as a question, and you were saying earlier in the beginning of our conversation about just saying yes. Like I said yes to this radio show. Well, Danny Gold called me up. I had worked with him on a play, When You're in Love, The Whole World is Jewish, directed by Jason Alexander, and Danny produced that, was one of the producers. But some little play on Fairfax, and it turned into developing a friendship, as there's a random quality to how things happen with all of us. And Danny was directing this movie and had filmed Dick Van Dyke, and Dick was always singing and dancing. He just does. It's just part of who he is.
It's true.
And he was singing and dancing with his wife in their house. And Danny called me up. He said, I have an idea. I don't know if this is crazy, but I'm wondering if you would be able to do an arrangement, write an arrangement, and produce a song for Dick Van Dyke for this movie. If you think it's a good idea and you can do that for me, then I'm going to present it to the producers, and then I'm going to present it to Dick. I go, yes, I can. Absolutely. And so I said I would need to meet with Dick first and see how he sings, and his wife Arlene, and just come up with a song and a key and a point of view. And yes, I'll put a band together and do it. And the yes led to other yeses to other yeses to me being in a recording studio producing Young at Heart.
It was so great.
Yeah, thank you. It was remarkable. It was remarkable to all of us.
It was remarkable to see her relationship to him.
Yeah.
She deeply gets him.
Yes.
She
Yeah.
really does.
Yeah.
She lets him be.
Oh, absolutely.
And she has found new something from him.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah. They bring a very interesting something to each other's lives that
They
makes
do.
each other's lives joyful. And you know, the thing about Dick, because I asked him, because I'm a curious guy, and I wasn't interviewing him, but in a way you are. Like when you produce somebody, you need to get to know them. To do it right, there needs to be an intimacy and a trust, and an understanding of each other. So in getting to know Dick, I just said, so what do you do to stay so healthy? Do you exercise every day, or do you go to dance class? And, I've never taken a dance class in my life.
Wow.
And I said, well, how did you learn to do all that? And he said, I'm a really great choreographer. And he named that choreographer by name. I'm sorry, I don't remember. But he was like, Dick's brain and awareness, he's sharper than I am.
Wow.
At 91 years old, I believe, right now. And so he said, I was always limber. I did pratfalls. I was always active. He said, I've always exercised. And he still exercises every day. He goes to
Because I
the
remember
gym.
seeing him on Broadway in Bye Bye Birdie.
Yes.
He was incredible.
Yeah. So it's just, he exercises every day. He's very active, and he's just having fun. He's not one of those guys that's angry that people just think of him as, the guy from Mary Poppins, He's having a great life and really enjoying himself. And his focus in the studio was unrelentless. I mean, we were in the studio at Capitol for a full day because we recorded live with the rhythm section. And then I had him sing live. I said, I want you to sing live with us so we can all feel each other. And so you can have the fun of this. And then we'll go back and we can recut vocals. And then we need to film. So they're going to be documenting all of us while we're going, but then we're going to change, and then we're doing a video. We're making a movie, too. We're probably a 12-hour day, and he just kept singing and great attitude, and, it was really wonderful.
Fantastic.
And we are releasing this song on iTunes, I believe it's September 22nd.
Wow.
So the single's going to be available, so I can finally share it with everybody.
That is so great.
Yeah, and submitting for the Grammys and everything as well.
Do you stay in touch with him?
I do. Yeah. Yeah. He's hard to reach.
Because he's so busy?
He's so busy just having fun. So like he doesn't even have an email. You just leave a message on his phone and he'll call back a couple weeks later, or his wife will call back, or not, or
Wow.
unless it's for a particular deadline.
And what did you learn? What insight did you gain from working with those ahead of you in life?
Well, a lot. Not just from Dick, who I learned a tremendous amount about and got to speak with about, also Alan and Marilyn Bergman, Dave Grusin. We talk more music.
Okay, well, we're coming to the end of this segment, but in the next segment, I want to follow up with this because Marilyn and Alan are precious friends,
Yes.
both of ours, and I want to hear more about them and that song as well.
Okay, absolutely.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll be back.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talked with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
And you're listening to Making It with Terry Wollman.
Welcome to Making It with Terry Wollman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Wollman.
Hi, it's Melissa Manchester again, and I'm back with my good friend Terry Wollman on the first anniversary, celebrating the first anniversary of his fabulous show, Making It. All right, kiddo.
Yes.
I want to pick up where we left off, talking about our friends Marilyn and Alan Bergman in the documentary. It's called. I mean, it is a documentary.
It is a
don't you think?
documentary.
Yes, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Tell me about the process of working with them. By the way, I have slept on their couch a few times.
They've told me.
In my past.
Yeah.
Yes, they were magnificent and patient with me, and I just love them so much. And they are such masters of the language.
They are.
All right, so tell me about that experience.
Well, it was a really fascinating experience because not only was I working with them, I was producing the song. That particular song, I didn't do the arrangement for. Dave Grusin did at my suggestion because I thought, who can arrange it better than the person who wrote it? Besides, he's Dave Grusin. But I produced that one. So I was working with Alan and Marilyn as songwriters and Dave, but I was working with Alan as an artist and a singer, because he doesn't typically get to be the one to sing his songs. But I always find it really interesting when the writer sings the song, even if they're not the singer that you're used to hearing.
But he's a really good singer.
He's great.
Alan is inside those lyrics in that music.
Absolutely. He's got a swing.
He does.
That, in a pocket and an understanding.
It's more than a swing, it's a swang.
That's right, it is. It is. And by the way, that's a generational thing because Tony Bennett, Dick Van Dyke, Alan Bergman, all of them had that swang. It just was like breathing and talking for them. And so with Alan, I really wanted to pull the performance out of him and still create an environment that was comfortable for him, so that he could be his best, and inspire confidence for him. And he was really open, really, really open, took direction quite well. His instincts were spot on. If there was a note that was a little pitchy or he was rushing or something, as I would do with anybody, I took some notes. We did, again, he sang live with us. And then when the band took a break, because we were filming this as well, I took our lunchtime when everybody was else and just worked with Alan and did a few more takes and then went in and listened to them and then sent them back to redo a couple lines. But the most precious part of it for me was watching Marilyn, because Marilyn was there and she was just like, they love each other so much. It's just that she just was like worried a little bit, but excited and proud, and all these. It was just love. It was just this pure, unadulterated love. As a matter of fact, at one point they're holding hands, and I actually took a picture of their hands. These two old hands. It was just so moving to me. I don't even know if they've seen the picture.
You probably know this, but his mentor was Johnny Mercer.
I don't.
He was trained by Johnny Mercer.
Yeah.
I mean, really?
Yeah. I just knew that I was working with
Masters.
masters in royalty,
Masters.
and with that, with anybody who's truly a master, there's an open-heartedness and a generosity. So he wanted my input. I of course wanted his, and it was this really beautiful collaboration that just worked great. It worked really, really well, and
just as an aside, Barbra Streisand has recorded 54 of their songs.
right.
Hello?
Right.
I mean, wow.
Yeah. And there's a reason for that.
Yes, excellence.
Yeah.
Excellence
Yeah.
is always the reason.
Yeah, yeah.
Speaking of excellence,
Yes.
tell me about the Phoenix Horns and Scorchin.
Well,
Tell me.
They're a great group. I love horn groups. My biggest influences as a horn arranger, in addition to the Phoenix Horns with Harry Kim, was Tower of Power, of course, and the Sea Wind Horns with Jerry Hay. Yeah, those are the people. I mean, I learned the ranges in school, but I learned how to write for horns by just picking apart and listening to all those melodies and punches and everything. So I was producing an album. I was asked years ago to produce a record and write. I co-wrote the record called Baila. The name of the band was Baila, and the album was called Shall We Dance, and it was a pop dance record back in the day when people were making dance records, and I brought in techno influences and disco influences, and it was fun for me.
And you survived.
I survived it. You know why? Because I was producing the record.
Okay.
So anything I was subjected to was on my own doing. As a matter of fact, the executive producer took me to some techno rave, to be exposed to that because it was not my world. And we bought some gear with like gritty loops and things like that. And then I wrote some things, and he came to my studio a month later to just sort of see the ideas. And he said, I would never believe that I would say this, but you are too techno. He said, you got to back you off a little bit.
Oh my God.
So I just went really deep into the pool once I got over the not understanding what it was. So anyway, I wanted to write horns. We did a version of Staying Alive at breakneck speed, disco, but we kicked it up because I grew up in Miami, and I know the bridge that the Gibbs were driving over, the causeway that created the tempo of the song, because that's where they came the beat. It was, I forget the name of the causeway, but you just the click, click, click of going over this bridge.
That created the beat?
That created that tempo and beat. That's where they wrote Staying Alive. So I actually not only knew the story.
Such a great story.
But I understood the story because I grew up in Miami. So I knew the sound and the feel of that tempo.
Oh, that's fantastic.
From that. Yeah. So,
wow.
So I wanted to, as I often do, reimagine a song. And I thought, what can I do different? Because we wanted to do one cover song. Everything else was original, and I co-wrote with some wonderful writers. And anyway, we decided that we were going to pick up the beat a little bit to get it more in the club, 80s club. I think it was in the 80s I did it. So I wrote a horn arrangement for it as well. And it was that was the tempo. And so I thought, well, I need to write these scorching horns for it. And I wrote an intro as well before we got into the song, just to really set it. And this song, and I ended up doing it as a standalone with these guys, with the Phoenix Horns from Phil Collins' group, because I knew a couple of the guys, and they came on in, and Amy Keys was singing the song, and she sings with Phil. And so anyway, we brought them in, and they just tore the paint off the walls. And we did this really fun intro that we just played. And so I pulled it as a standalone also, because it's this 15-second moment of just the paint peeling off the walls from this horn section that's just crazy good.
Crazy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to get back to this show of yours
Yeah.
that's just had its first anniversary.
Yeah.
It's so great. Did you have a formula of questions or an angle that you were trying to achieve when you started calling around for guests? Was there a kind of guest that you were looking for?
Those are two separate questions.
That's
yes.
true.
Yeah, there were very specific kinds of guests that I was looking for, and I wanted to keep it a moving target at the beginning. I didn't want people to think, oh, this is this kind of a show. It's just singers. It's just writers. It's just performers. It's just whatever. Pick a genre. Pick a career.
Right.
It's really about success. And I thought if I can shift around at the beginning and set the bar very high by asking you to do my first show. The second episode was Alan and Marilyn Bergman going to their house, and and then at that point I thought, now I can start calling anybody, because I'll get their attention and tell them what the show is about, and then find out what their life is about, and their process and their point of view, and what's important to them in life, not just musically. What's important: music education, the world getting along together, stopping starvation, staying healthy, yoga, rescuing puppies, whatever it is. Those things are important. They're really important. Raising their families, coming to LA, moving out of LA. And so but I wanted to make sure that I covered every aspect of it, because I didn't want it to be a predictable show. I wanted the format essentially to be the same, to unpeel people's lives and talk about what it is, how they think, how they view the world, how they view life, how they got from here to there, because I'm more curious about the process than the outcome.
Right, because it's not called Made It.
No, it is not called Made It. It is called Making It. It's a work in progress, and it's a different experience and a different meaning for everybody.
And do you feel that people who have achieved are still making it?
Absolutely. Absolutely, every single day. I don't see anybody who is making it, meaning whatever that is for them, making a life that brings me to their attention, or brings them to my attention, so that a conversation happens. That's a value putting on a show for other people to want to listen to. But yes, because once they achieve a certain something, there are other things that they want to achieve, either more of that or less of that. If it has to do with industry, they want to reclaim their integrity. They want to reclaim their artistry sometimes. But they also, life happens, and sometimes for the good, sometimes for the challenging. And, there are babies born, and people die, and people get married, and people get divorced, and there are physical things that happen to you. And I had a spinal cord injury and a titanium plate in my neck and couldn't play guitar for a year. Those are all those things that are the stories that really make what it's about. I'm making it every day when I go to the gym or go to karate or something, to try to continue to get feeling back in my hands, because my hands are always numb and always will be from a bicycle accident many years ago. And, and that accident was not me doing anything crazy. I was just riding my bike. It was just my time to get hurt. And I'm curious about that. I'm fascinated by how music helped pull me out of that hole. A long, slow climb back to learn how to play again, and to make a decision on, well, what am I going to do? I mean, my hands are numb. How do I play? And then really coming to a place saying, well, my hands are going to be numb whether I play or not. So why don't I reintroduce things that bring me joy and make me happy, and actually make other people happy too when I do it, and you'll figure it out. And that's what I'm finding, like the making it it's the process. It's a daily process of people maybe redefining their lives, or a daily questioning of, how can I have a better life? How can I be of service? How can I leave the place better than I found it? The place, the world, the
right.
experience.
To add to this,
Yeah.
these are sort of connective questions. Do you interview people who have basically made it, or some at the beginning of their careers, some more established?
I do both.
Yeah?
Yeah, I've been really intrigued by people that have already become of some level of fame, because for one, I think it's better to get people to come to the show, because they're going to be more interested to see what somebody like you has to say than somebody they might not know yet. But I have definitely interviewed young, up-and-coming artists, and I'm equally curious about their process and what they think, and how hard or how little they are willing to work, versus our generation of how hard we have worked and continue to. So, for me, I don't want to be exclusionary in any way, but I have been given the freedom by the producers of the network to remain a moving target. So
Right.
I've interviewed people at different points of their career, just coming up, different genres, and a music attorney, Ken Cragen's coming on, who's a manager and a visionary as well. Jason Goroff, who does radio promotion for both of us. And not just to say, oh, what is radio promotion? What do you think of that? Although I ask the hard questions. How important is radio? How important is it to be on the Billboard charts these days versus before? I want to be honest and real.
But have you ever had the experience where you're interviewing somebody and this is all in relation to the title of your show.
Yes.
When you're listening to something and what they're going through or their point of view about it, do you ever feel the impulse to say, I know what you're going through, but let me give you a piece of my experience, my advice?
No, I don't think that's the place for me to do it.
Okay.
I think about it sometimes. I think sometimes I'll interject my experience with them, but here's a really good example of that, and it's a very personal example that you don't even, I don't think I've ever told you about this, but I interviewed a guest, and it was Jonathan Butler, who's this amazing talent, amazing, and he talked about, he got very personal very quickly, and I know Jonathan, but I didn't really know the details of this, but he had been molested as a child, and he talked about it very openly, and I was molested as a child, which I don't talk about very often. I'm willing to, but most people don't know that about me. More people will know about it now. But the thing is, my immediate reaction, because I was so shocked that he said it, and my heart just like broke for him that he had that experience as a young boy, as I did, and we were about the same age, like 6 or 7 years old, and from people we knew, and my immediate response was to say, I had that happen to me. I really am so sorry. I understand. And I thought, I can't make this about me right now. This is not my story. And I think it's part of, it would be different if Jonathan and I were talking over a glass of wine, or out playing golf, which I don't do, but we were doing a radio interview, and I thought, as I'm still learning how to be a host and an interviewer, I wasn't really sure, because what I do on a personal level, which might be to interject my advice, isn't maybe always appropriate.
Right.
And I thought, just my intuition at that time was, I'm going to talk to Jonathan about that privately another time, but I don't want to make his story my story right now, because it diminishes what's going on. And I think if I give advice during the show, I'll give my point of view.
Just your point of view.
Yeah.
I didn't mean it.
I know. But I mean, that was a profound experience that sort of jarred the question.
Say.
It posed the question to me. But occasionally I'll say, well, when I was in school, my experience was this, so it's interesting. Well, why do you think this way? I'll take that route. I'll go with more questions, because I want to have them reveal to me their process.
It's so interesting. Life is all process, isn't it?
Yeah.
I had written a song years ago called One More Mountain to Climb with Carol Sager.
Yeah.
And the lead line was, just when you think you've arrived, you find you're standing at the foot of another hill, still with one more mountain to climb.
Right.
It's really true. It's
It
really
is.
true. And hearing about everybody else's process, does that enlarge your inner world?
Yes. It
You
does.
learn things from it?
Absolutely. I learn every show.
Every show.
I learn every show, and I also, I really make it a point, because some of me doing this is selfish, because I want to learn. I'm curious what my guests have to say, but I want to share this information. So I really want to I hope that everybody learns along with me.
Of course.
From these conversations, because that's what I find the deepest value of doing this show.
All right, well, we're going to come back in just a moment and continue our lovely discussion with my lovely friend, Terry Wollman.
Hey, everybody, this is Phil Perry. Stay tuned for another portion of Making It
with Terry
Hi,
Wollman.
this is Tim Dolbear, host of Sound Experience here on Intertalk Radio. And Source Connect by Source Element is the essential tool that we use to link between my studio in Austin, Texas and the WS radio station in San Diego. Now with Source Connect, not only can we communicate in real time and with HD audio, but it's synced up and is of a high enough quality that I can use it for real-time ADR work, remote recording and overdubbing, and it even allows me to remotely control a DAW. Source Connect by Source Element. Affordable, high-quality audio and video connection over the internet for all of your production needs.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Hi, this is Matt LaPointe from Motu. You're listening to Making It with Terry Wollman.
Welcome to Making It with Terry Wollman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Wollman.
All right, it's Melissa Manchester again, back to turn the tables on Terry Wollman, whose first anniversary of his show Making It is happening right here and right now. All right, my dear, tell me about our precious friend Kev Mo.
Oh, yeah, love him.
Love him so much.
Yeah, well, we were neighbors for about 10 years, which is how we reconnected.
That's right.
through Kevin, working on a duet that you were doing. But we lived on the same block. We walked our dogs together and lent guitars to each other.
Yes.
And talked about life, you know, and cooked some meals. Well before we worked together, we became friends first. And so when we did start hiring each other to play on each other's albums, or I went and toured in his band for a year, you know, it was really even more special.
Yeah.
But I had written a song about my mom at the end of her life called A Mother's Work, and I started writing the lyrics in the parking lot of the hospital while the sun was coming up in Miami, and you know, on the last day of my mother's life, and was really not so much writing about death, but I was writing, or illness, but I was writing about my relationship with my two brothers, and how somehow my mother's final act of getting older and getting sick and then dying brought us together in a way that was unexpected. You know, that we worked more as a team, and somehow it was like her final gift to us and our final gift to her to come together. But it just, sun coming up and tears rolling down my eyes, and I grabbed like a map of Fort Lauderdale and just started writing lyrics, and then and at the same time my mom was on life support, and she had a surgery, and they made her heart really strong, but everything else started failing. And so, at some point it was time to take her off of life support, but she was still conscious, which was, you never expect that part of that to happen. So anyway, not to diminish the story, but that's not the question that you asked. But so I wrote this song, and we also, I played guitar for my mom while we were with her on her last night. And I just started improvising and played this thing that came to me. And then later on in my healing and thinking and remembering and trying to make sense of it all, and I found these lyrics and thought, I need to finish writing this story. I think it's a poem, it might be a song, I don't know. And then I thought, what about that piece of music that I ad-libbed, for while I was playing for my mom while we were with her? And I said, maybe they belong together, maybe they don't. So they did belong together, and I ended up completing the song, and it was the hardest song I've ever written, to go back and into the depths of that emotion and feeling it, to do, and then to demo it, and then to sing it. And I needed somebody special to sing it for me, and I thought of Keb Mo, because he's a storyteller and he's a friend and he's an observer of life, and I called him up and I said, I have this song, would you consider singing? And he goes, let me hear it. And I sent it to him and he said, absolutely. And he sang it, and I love him for that. And he just did this beautifully perfect, imperfect, emotional, perfect rendition.
He's on such a journey, isn't he?
Yes.
It's not that he's just well-intentioned, because he is.
Right.
He's an angel.
Yeah.
But his thought is so deep and intentional.
Yeah.
It's just incredible.
Oh, it is. Here's an example of that. He asked me to join his band a while back, 10 years ago or more. He was touring with Bonnie Raitt and had the opportunity open for him to carry another musician in the band and bump it up another level or make it sound more like the record. So he called me, and all his conversations always start with, hey man, what are you doing? And that either leads to a dog walker playing on the Tonight Show the next night. You never know what it's going to be.
That's right.
Yeah. So this was, hey man, I'm in Australia and I just want to say hi. How you doing? I'm good. He's thinking about wondering if you might want to join my band for this year. So of course, yes was the answer.
Sure.
And I said, so he said, I said, what do you envision? He said, well, I want you, of course, to play electric and acoustic guitar, maybe play some mandolin, maybe play some keyboards. Just sort of be that guy, that utility guy. And I said, I've never done that outside of the studio before.
Wow.
But he goes, no, I think you'd be great at it. So I said, okay. So I said, just tell me the songs so I can start learning them, and tell me which instrument you want me to play in each song so that I can focus on if it's going to be a Rhodes part or a whatever, or a mandolin part. And he said, oh, no. And he goes, just learn the songs. Just learn the lyrics. Listen to the songs. You'll know what to play. Learn the songs.
That is so him.
Yes. Yeah. And I did.
And so what came out of that? You learned the songs, and then what? You went into rehearsal, and then you gave your opinion of what you should play, or he said, okay, now, do you see that it should be mandolin? How did that
Then
work?
we started, then it was a conversation. It was a conversation like you and I would have before we start an album or an arrangement or writing a song together.
Yeah.
Or where do you want to have lunch, or what are we making for dinner? It's a conversation. It's a dialogue between two people, two artists. His point of view is what I needed to know. But sometimes I would bring him my opinion and say, well, I noticed that the wah-wah part that you did was really cool, and I'm guessing you're not playing that because you're singing. Do you want me to play that? And he goes, I hate wah-wah. And I go, well, why is it on your record? He goes, I don't know what I was thinking. Or I liked it when I did it, but he goes,
a scream.
He made me take my wah-wah pedal out of my pedal board when we went on the road for a year because he thought that I would have a weak moment and use it. And I said, I won't use it. He goes, no, you will.
Oh,
take that thing. I don't want to,
scream.
as a matter of fact, he gave me his old wah-wah pedal. He goes, I don't need this anymore. Of course, he borrowed it back the next year when, and I gave it to him, of course. So we always had stuff going back and forth. So we just talked, and I would say, oh, I thought that was that drove the bus on that song. He goes, yeah, it did, but really the part that I want you to play is this. I want you to play that whirly part, and then then in the bridge you'll pick up the mandolin, which you can wear while you're playing. Or he said, here's really what I want. He goes, your job is to make my band sound more expensive. And I said, And I said, what do you mean by that? And he said,
And yet you know exactly what
of
he
course.
was saying. That is so great.
Yeah, to bring that extra element that is in the album that you don't get to bring out on the road because
Wow.
there's only so many things, when you play 5 guitar parts,
Oh, God.
for the textures and the colors and the energy. But he said, so you're going to be that guy. He goes, sometimes on some songs, you're not even going to play until the second chorus. Not even the second verse. You're going to come in and people are going to walk away going, Kev Mo's got a guy that just stood up there
And waited.
smiling, and he didn't even play until the second chorus. But man, when he did, or like he said, or like you're like the sax player. You're not playing always. Wow. Yeah, so I played some percussion. I did a few things, but mostly for those songs that I didn't come in till the second chorus, I had the best seat in the house.
Well, that's the thing. It's that creating that inner world of the song. He lives that. And that's so great.
So that's our friend Kev Mo.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
All right, so getting back to your show
Yeah.
called Making It at Long Last, or How I Made It, or Making It Work, or This Is When I Know I Made It, any of those. But we'll call it Making It.
Yes.
So now that it's a year, happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Do you consider this still the honeymoon, or do you feel that you're well into the marriage of you and this show?
I feel like I'm in the marriage now. I'm getting, with every show, I get more comfortable with what it is that I'm doing and my purpose and what works. And like I do in anything else in my life, in my personal life, and certainly in my musical life, which you've observed both, do more of what works and less of what doesn't. So I really start fresh with every show. I don't ask everybody the same questions. I research every show. But I listen to certain people like Terry Gross. I heard Terry Gross being interviewed, and she talked about that she doesn't write her questions out. She just writes some notes out because she wants it to be conversational, and she doesn't have time. So at the beginning, for the first 6 months probably, I wrote more questions than I ever needed because I was told by the producers of the show, always have more than you need, because you might get people saying yes, no, oh yeah, that's what I did, and that's, and you're out of questions. And other people, you ask one question and you've got to reel them back in.
Have you had a lot of guests that just speak in monosyllables?
Not really. No, it's gotten, there have been some shorter answers, but I would say I've had a few more guests that tend to keep talking, and I reel them back in. I don't think you were one of them. Perhaps you aren't. I'm more used to it, or more intrigued by it. But there have been a few people at the end of the show when we're off the air that were saying our thank yous, and they go, "I hope I didn't talk too much," or and I say, "No, it was perfect."
But you didn't find in this year's experience that primarily musicians, they are articulate in their speaking, not just articulate in their playing?
Yeah,
mostly?
they are. They mostly are.
Yeah.
They mostly are. Some have more clarity than others, or more, a more beautiful way with the English language, or of expressing themselves. But they've all been fascinating to me.
And has this experience of making it in this past year, has it been better than the dream? What has surprised you about you in this?
About me? I think I'm surprised that I'm enjoying it so much, that I'm finding it really challenging and very stimulating. And I prepare for anything that I do when I have the opportunity to. I mean, in music, sometimes you're just asked to show up and trust your life, all the work that you've done, and trust that you know what you're doing. Certainly my first day music directing a late night talk show, being on headset and going, I think I know how to do this, and looking around and going, you're the smartest person in the room. You're the one who got chosen. You know more about this than anybody else.
That's right. Yeah.
Regardless of what you think you know or don't know. There's a lot of other people that could have gotten chosen. So I, would remind myself of that. But I, even for people that I know, even when I interview you, I research what you've been doing lately so that I come up with new questions or things that I think you might want to talk about. And I also engage it as a conversation, as a dialogue. I always want it to be about what you want to talk about it as well as what I want to talk about. And if I don't get to all of my questions, which I never have yet, I feel like it was a good interview because I feel like we had a conversation.
Okay. So it is now my turn to ask you what you would tell your younger self after all of this experience.
The question I ask everybody at the end of my show. I would tell myself, and I've heard this before by multiple times by people, but I would say, just relax. Don't worry. It's, everything. You trust life. Trust your ambition. Trust your passion. Trust your heart and your gut. And it really is okay to not worry about what anybody else thinks. Take guidance and counsel from the people that you respect, and the ones that you don't, give it consideration. And if it works for you, use it. And if it doesn't, go back to your heart and what you know is right, because you do. You know what's right.
And do you feel like you bring your younger self with you wherever you go now?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Well, this has been a joy, Mr. W. This has been really a joy to help you celebrate your wonderful first anniversary of this wonderful show, Making It. Congratulations, my friend.
Thank you, and it's really a pleasure to be on Making It with Melissa Manchester. I really appreciate having the hour with you and being on this side of the table.
Anytime.
Got it.
Tune in again next week for another great episode of Making It with Terry Wollman.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear from Eclectica Studios. I'm a full-time mixing and recording engineer. I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists, using state-of-the-art digital mixing and restoration tools and the very best in analog gear. Really, though, it's my ability to bring tracks to life and fulfill your vision for your music. This has made me sought after by producers and artists worldwide. So spend your time working on music and not chasing a mix down a rabbit hole. Go to timdolbear.com and check out our free one-song mix offer.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. Pitbullaudio.com.